Welcome to S-Info Podcast, a European format showcasing independent journalistic investigations developed in collaboration with local communities. A project designed to inform, delve deeper, and build new grassroots narratives.
Cortina d'un pezzo, Dolomites. 5,000 permanent residents, over 20,000 tourist beds. In 2026, the Winter Olympics will be held here, together with Milan, Trentino, and South Tyrol. The bid dossier spoke of sustainable games, existing facilities, respect for the environment and the local area. Today, less than a year before the event, those promises seem distant. Behind the big numbers, institutional slogan and national pride, there are urban planning choices, public investments and political decisions that are profoundly transforming the Ampezzo Valley. What is the main topic of your investigation and why did you choose it?
Well, the particular topic of this research is the impacts of the upcoming Olympic Games on the territory of Cortina d'Ampezzo, which is one of the regions we lost the upcoming Olympic Games in Italy. So this topic is actually connected to more general topics, and so it's kind of a pretext to talk about more important and general phenomena that are affecting the Alps nowadays. So in particular, we are talking about the impacts that climate change is having on the mountain regions, about also the lack of snow of the recent years and the fact that the ski industry is changing, and also the interplay between depopulation in the Alps and tourism. Sometimes tourism is a helpful tool to avoid depopulations, and sometimes over-tourism, and so it can become a problem. So I chose this topic to answer your question because it's a topic that allows for a lot of connections and other connections with other phenomena.
How does this issue affect the territory you explored? What did you observe and document?
So I'll try to summarize a bit what I found on the territory on my fieldwork. I think the main findings can be summarized in two broad categories, two main topics, let's say. So I found that there has been a lack of involvement of local communities in the organization of this edition of the Olympic Games. In fact, by talking with local activists and normal citizens, I found that there have been many protests against the constructions of infrastructures linked to the Olympic Games. In particular, there have been many protests against the bobsleigh track, which is this infrastructure that costed 120 million euros. And there have been many protests because basically the local communities thought that there were better ways to spend public money on Cortina rather than building a new bobsleigh track. And also there have been many protests about other infrastructures, such as a cable car that will connect Cortina to the piste where the competition for Alpine ski will be held. But again, this would be the number N cable car in Cortina, and a lot of citizens think it's not necessary. And also, as I will tell you later, there are some environmental problems related to this cable car. Actually, the citizens of Cortina also asked for a referendum, listening to the opinion of the local communities about hosting or not the Olympic Games, but this referendum hasn't been granted, and it was already back in 2018. So there is a feeling lack of involvement of locals, and also it looks like the main stakeholders that would actually benefit from this event are those that have large enough capital to invest on tourism infrastructures in Cortina. These are mainly international investors, and at the same time, actually, Cortina inhabitants are struggling with buying their first house, actually due to the tourism industry in Cortina and the condition of over-tourism that I mentioned before. An house in Cortina at the moment costs more or less 12,000 euros per meter square, and at this price, the inhabitants are actually moving somewhere else to find their first homes. So this is an example of how tourism is becoming a cause rather than a solution to the population. The second main result we found is also that there have been a lack of environmental impact evaluations and also a lack of strategies for the legacy of the Olympic Games. So we analyzed three main infrastructures have been built in Cortina in view of the Olympic Games, or have to be built in the next 6 months before the Games. And two out of three of these infrastructures actually weren't subject of environmental impact evaluation. And this was possible because of precautions in the definitions of these infrastructures. So, for example, the bobsleigh track, which again, local communities were partially against this infrastructure. They didn't evaluate its environmental impact because it's defined as a renovation, because there was already a bobsleigh track in the site. And so they basically demolished the old one and built a new one. But even though they built a brand new one, they called it renovation. And so the law allows in this case to not carry an environmental impact evaluation. And another case is the Olympic Village, which is a temporary infrastructure. So again, this doesn't require environmental impact evaluation, but as you can maybe read better in the text, this is not completely true for the case of the Olympic Village in Cortina. And third infrastructure that we analyzed, which is the cable car that is connecting Cortina to the piste where the Alpine ski competitions will be held, as an environmental impact evaluation that actually highlighted several critical points. In particular, the cable car will be built over an active landslide, and so it will require regular maintenance in the years after it has been built to maintain it. And this maintenance will be very expensive, and also we found that actually climate change is affecting this landslide, this phenomenon, and can potentially also make it more dangerous for the cable car. Despite these shortcomings that have been highlighted in public documents and public procedures, the cable car will be still constructed because it is thought to be essential for the Games. But it is not clear whether it will be economically viable. So these highlight how these infrastructure have been built without environmental impact evaluation, or when there were, they've been basically ignored. And this is happening in a time during which actually climate change is increasing the mountain region's hydrological risk and fragility. And so actually the Olympic Games could have been maybe an occasion to build a set of resilient infrastructures, but instead the environmental evaluation have been again avoided or ignored.
How did working with the partner association influence or enrich your work?
Yeah, this research was conducted thanks to the collaboration with the Open Olympics Committee Network. So the Open Olympics is a group of more than 20 associations that are on a national level. And this group of associations is asking the organizing committee of the Olympic Games full transparency and accountability of the Games. So the work of the collective of association, both through reporting, but also through campaigning to ask, again, the Olympic organizing committee full transparency, has granted access to journalists and citizens to a number of data regarding the Olympic infrastructures. And these actually have been extensively used during this work. So it was crucial, their help and also being part of this network. But Open Olympics is more than that. Actually, at the local level, many activists from Cortina d'Ampezzo are involved in the monitoring of the infrastructures together with the larger committee. And so the committee have been a way to connect with these people and listen to their voices. So their help has been precious. I actually interviewed many of these activists. And I would say that without the voice of the local communities, it would have been impossible to interpret the effects of the Olympic Games on the territory. I listened to their opinions, the information they could provide, and their personal stories. The personal stories are not part actually of the main text of the research, but they made me feel part of a bigger group, and this gave me a lot of motivation and determination to keep up with my work.
This podcast is part of S-Info, a European project funded by the EU, focused on media and driven by the need to strengthen democracy. The views expressed are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the position of the European Union. Discover all the investigation on sinfo-project.eu.